The decisive factor was the smell of cigarette smoke. I quit smoking at the age of 11. I managed to smoke 10 packs of Mom's cigarettes and didn't feel very well. Later that day, I talked to my beloved uncle, a sailor and a smoker. "If you smoke, Tosh, you'll never have any money. I'd rather never start." He always called me Tosh. I think it was a pet name left over from his time in the Navy. I loved my uncle, and a short conversation with him made me wonder why I should smoke at all. The reason was obvious. I wanted to be like big boys, like my brother. They won't accept me because I'm too young. Moreover, I realized that I didn't like the people I was trying to impress at all. So that's it, no more cigarettes. My resolve was slightly shaken when I started chasing girls. I wanted to impress them with how macho I am. Hanging around the streets with a cigarette in your mouth seemed so cool. I hesitated until the moment when the coolest girl in school, Rebecca Davis, let me kiss her. Rebecca was a smoker and so cool. She was hanging out with guys my brother's age, and she let me kiss her. I was over the moon with happiness until I felt the taste. B. If smokers taste like that, then I don't want any of this. I left Rebecca, who looked very offended, and continued to live as before. Not cool and not smoking. I've always been considered a bit unsociable. Ever since I was bullied on the playground, I tried not to show emotion. Hit them hard and hit them where it hurts, my uncle used to say. But first of all, never let anyone see that you have been hurt. That's exactly what they want. And if they don't get it from you, they'll move on to someone else. It worked against bullies, but left a side effect. I was left with an inability to show emotions. Years passed, and I found myself a nice, non-smoking girl. Her name was Barbara, and we became friends right away. 18 months later, I proposed to her, and she agreed. That was 23 years ago. A lot of water has flowed under the bridge. We have 2 adult children, Henry, who has just graduated from university, and Zoe, whose first year of study is coming to an end. With Barb, I could be myself. He could have loosened his guard a little. When my brother died of lung cancer, he was only 42 years old, and it hit me harder than I expected. For several weeks after his death, when I was alone, I suddenly found myself bursting into tears. Barb always found me and hugged me until I stopped crying. Not a day went by that I didn't say I loved her. Her friends asked her what it was like to be married to such an insensitive person like me. She always answered the same thing. "You don't know him. You see a cool, logical guy. I see a warm-hearted person who is ready to do anything for the sake of his family. He gets angry like any man, just doesn't scream and yell like some. Frank is silent and seems even calmer. If you don't know him, you'll never guess that he's angry." We have become an empty nest, and I like it. Even after all this time, my heart does a somersault when I look at her. I've always been proud to be seen with her, but when she started taking more care of her appearance, I was doubly excited. That's why I didn't notice right away. I thought that I just want her more and more. But the smell in our bedroom that Thursday night made me think, and I realized that it wasn't that I was flirting more often, but that Barb was pushing me away more often. Barb has never had a special sense of smell, while mine has always been sharp. She didn't notice anything, but I caught everything. I liked some smells, like Barb's smell when I lay down next to her in bed. He hated other smells. Most of all, I hated the smell of cigarette smoke. I hated the way it eats into clothes and hair and settles there. It was enough to spend an evening in the company of a smoker, and for several days I could smell the smell on my clothes. That's why the smell here in my own bedroom made me uneasy. I asked Barb about it, but she didn't feel anything. She said I was dreaming. Perhaps I would have believed her if I hadn't smelled that smell again next Tuesday. I called Barb into the bedroom and asked her about it, but she again denied that there was any smell. On Thursday, the room smelled of air freshener. This aroused my serious suspicions. I went to the window and sniffed the curtains. It was cigarette smoke again. This has become serious. Someone was smoking in my bedroom, and Barb was trying to hide it. There was only one conclusion. It took me 2 weeks to put one thing together, so 2 weeks later on Tuesday night, there was a confrontation. We both sat down to dinner, and Barb had just started munching on a delicious piece of chicken when I asked her, "Who is he, Barb?" A sharp intake of breath made her suck the chicken down her throat and violently choke. She came to, and I brought her a glass of water. "Who is this who?" she asked, trying to bluff. "The man you let smoke in our bedroom. Who is he?" "I have no idea what you're talking about. What are you accusing me of?" "It's very simple, Barb. I'm accusing you of inviting a man into our bedroom and letting him smoke. I know it's true. I can smell him." "You're crazy." All so quiet, calm in appearance, and suddenly went berserk. "You need to check your nose. There is no smoking man here." I stopped eating and got up. Looking down at her, I pointed to my plate. "By the way, it's actually a fantastic chicken." I walked down the hall to our bedroom, picked up a small round object, and returned to the table. I went to the corner of the living room, which I used as an office, and returned with a laptop. I sat down and started eating again. "Really excellent, Barb. You should try a little more. What you've eaten isn't enough for a fly." I lost my appetite. "Why did you bring all this?" After chewing another portion of chicken, I wiped my mouth with a napkin and picked up a round object. "This, my dear, is a Wi-Fi webcam. See the little antenna at the back? I left it in our bedroom today." I went to my laptop. This, as you know, is my laptop, and I assume you know that it supports Wi. It can connect to the webcam wirelessly. Today, a program was launched on it that includes recording from the camera at any movement. I wonder what she wrote down this afternoon. Maybe like a man smoking in our bedroom. Maybe even sitting on our bed. Maybe my dear wife is lying next to him. Let's see. Barb reached out and closed her laptop. "No, I don't want to look at it. Don't want. It's all true. Here, I said it. Do you feel happy?" "Happy? Do you think I should be happy to know that my wife entertained another man in my bedroom and lay there while he smoked in our bed? No, I'm not happy. Now I'm going to ask you again, who is he?" I can't tell you. You're going to want to hurt him. And if you do, you're going to jail. I can't stand it. I love you. "Barb, I promise I won't hurt him. So who is he?" "Do you promise? Do you really promise that you won't hurt him?" "Barb, I gave you my word. I won't touch him. Have I ever broken a promise?" She stopped for a moment and thought. "No, did not violate." "Okay, it's all right now. I repeat, who is he?" Her head was down and she was looking at her feet. "His name is Richard. He's a college student." "I see, and you, as the head of the student service, just did your job, serving students. It's inappropriate and beneath your dignity, Frank." "Okay, now all the cards are open. What are you going to do? Do you want to get a divorce to marry him?" "No, I don't love him. I love you. Don't leave me, Frank, please. Please don't leave me." "And then what? Will you give it up?" "I'm not sure I can. I would like to say yes, but I will not make promises that I cannot fulfill. Can't we just let things take their course? I know it's just a hobby, and I know he'll get tired of me. For God's sake, he's only 20. Soon he will want young girls, and everything will be over. And if I don't agree, then I'll try to give it up, Frank. I really will, but the craving for it is so strong. When he's with me, I feel so alive. I'm not sure I can do it, Frank. Don't I make you feel alive? It's different with you, Frank. Being with you makes me feel loved. I'm so proud to be with you, but it's not the same. Please, Frank, please tell me you're going to try. I really don't want to lose you. Can you try, Frank, please?" "I don't know. I'll think about it and tell you tomorrow." I got up and started cleaning up the dishes. "Are you serious, Frank? Are you really serious? Will you think about it?" "I just said that, didn't I? Now I'd better start moving my stuff to the spare room." "No, Frank. I don't want that. I really don't want to. Please don't move out." "I have to, Barb. I know what young people are like. He's going to throw himself everywhere, and I certainly don't want to pick up anything. I'll let you know tomorrow." I left Barb crying at the table while I spent the rest of the evening carrying all my things out of the master bedroom. The next night, Barb cooked beef stroganoff, my favorite dish, especially the way Barb cooked it. And again, she hardly touched her dish, only moved the food around the plate. When I finished eating, she sat and looked at me until curiosity got the better of her. "Well, have you decided yet?" "Yes, Barb, I have decided." "Well, don't keep me in suspense. What have you decided?" "It's all over. It's going to end right here, right now. From now on, you won't have anything to do with him anymore. If he shows up at your office, you'll send someone else to deal with him. Is that clear, Barb? It's over. And will you stay with me, Frank? Will everything be the same as before?" "Maybe. I don't know. This has never happened to me before. But yes, maybe I'll get over it in time." "Thank you, Frank. I'll try. I really will." "You're going to do more than try, Barb. If you want us to stay together, you can do it. God knows I love you more than anything in the world, but I won't let you humiliate me. Will you move back into our bedroom?" "Not yet. If I end up in the same bed with you, I won't be able to keep my hands off you. I think we both need to get checked for sexually transmitted diseases first. I'll make an appointment in the morning." "I don't think there's anything to worry about. I'm sure he's clean." "Nevertheless, we'll check both. Like I said, I know young people. I was one of them once. If he's sleeping with you, he's probably bumping into someone else." "Frank, do you have to be so rude?" "Just telling it like it is, Barb. And after that, when we're both sure everything's okay, I'll think about moving in with you." For the next month, everything went well. Barb seemed to have become more like her old self. She was doing everything she could to lure me back to the bedroom. She changed clothes when she came home. So by my arrival, she was wearing short skirts or very tight jeans with a very thin blouse, usually without underwear. In the evening, she sat on the sofa next to me, hugged my hand. At the end of the evening, she looked at me and said, Well, I'm going to bed. Do you want to join me?" I even started to weaken. I was determined to wait out the entire 3-month incubation period. But after only a month, I was no longer sure that I could continue in the same spirit. I loved her as if there would be no tomorrow. I wanted her all the time. I am not a religious person, but I prayed that she would stay away from him. Then my nose did it to me again. She was standing at the sink, draining the water from the vegetables. She was wearing jeans, which she must have stuffed a lot of money into, and a thin, white t-shirt. At that moment, I lost control of myself. I came up behind her, put my hands under her arms. She put down the pot, raised her hands to cover mine, and pressed herself tightly against me. That sounds like my husband," she said. She leaned against me again. When she did, my nose was buried in her hair. Here it is, this smell. Cigarette smoke, still the same cheap brand, if I'm not mistaken. I stepped back. She was a little discouraged when I pulled away from her. "What? What happened?" "I don't have to do this." "What do you mean? You shouldn't do it. You're my husband. If you don't have to do it, then who should?" Sorry, I lost control for a minute." "And okay, I've been trying to make you lose control for the last month. I want you to lose control. I want my husband back." "You really want me back? Is that really what you want?" She was looking into my eyes, looking for something that could tell her what was going on. "Yes, that's what I want. I've been telling you this for the last month." "Are you sure? Are you sure you want me and not your young romantic?" "No, of course not. I did what you said. I don't see him anymore." She was good, but not good enough. When she's lying, she always takes off her wedding ring, and I've seen her do just that. There was also a tremor in her voice. "I need to think. I'll be gone for a while." "Can it wait until after dinner? I'm almost ready to serve it." "Just put it on a plate and cover it with a lid. I'll warm it up when I get back." I went to the lake and sat there watching the windsurfers, taking advantage of the evening sun. I sat there until sunset and then drove back home. Barb met me at the door, took my hand and put her head on my shoulder. "Have you thought it over?" I nodded. "I would like you to let me know sometimes what's going on in your head." "No, Barb, I don't think you want to know." I ate alone while Barb watched what was happening. After dinner, I went to bed, leaving Barb to watch TV. The next day, I sat outside the lawyer's office and waited for them to come back from lunch. The lawyer's office was right across the street from our local college. I was sitting there in my van, watching students come and go when I noticed a group of 6 students walking in my direction. More precisely, 5 students and Barbara. They were all laughing and joking as they crossed the road and entered the pub on the corner. I must admit, I didn't recognize her right away. She looked like her own among them. I sat in the van and watched the door of the pub, not noticing the lawyers and their secretaries returning to work. The sky was overcast and a fine rain began to drizzle. I'd been there for maybe 45 minutes when I saw her come out. She was alone and decided to run back to work so as not to get wet. I crossed the road and entered the bar, seeing how they were all grouped around a table by the window. I bought myself a pint of good old and sat down at a table next to them. I sat and listened to the conversation. "Are you serious, Richie? Do you want anything at all?" "I told you. Anything." "And what are you going to do with it? I mean, she's a little old, isn't she?" "She can more than support me." "Tell you what, Rich, you can give it to me when you're done." "Well, then take it, Jonesy." "So, you're going to leave her?" "Maybe it depends on whether I can't get into Stephanie's." "I'll give you 20 pounds for it." "You can't even spend the night on 20 pounds, Jonesy." "Hey, here's an idea. I can rent it out." They all laughed when the girls came back. "What are we laughing at?" one of the girls asked. "Richie's thinking about renting out his woman," the one called Jonesy replied. "Don't be so cruel," the other girl said. "I think Babs is beautiful. I would like my mom to be like her." I felt anger and great sadness. How could he be so disrespectful to her? I wanted to sink my teeth into his throat, but I was held back by a promise made to Barb. "I won't touch him," I said. "How could I be so stupid?" Throughout the conversation, Richie watched the rain outside. Now I noticed how he reached into his pocket and took out cigarettes. When he took out a lighter, Jonesy turned to him. "You can't smoke here, buddy. It's against the law." "Well, I'm not going to go outside. It's raining. I need a cigarette, and if people don't like it, let them leave." I took my beer and moved to the bar. Despite all my efforts, there was moisture in my eyes. I wiped one when the owner of the establishment came up. "Are you okay, buddy?" "What? Oh yeah, I'm fine. Just cigarette smoke. It always makes my eyes sting." The owner looked around the bar. Richie tried to hide the cigarette in his clenched hand, but the rising smoke gave him away. "Okay, you're all leaving." Richie quickly stubbed out his cigarette and showed it to the owner. Okay, don't panic. Don't ruffle your hair, okay?" "Don't ruffle your hair. That's good, Richie," Jonesy said. "I didn't tell you to take it away. I told you to get out. Now you have 10 seconds before I release the dogs." He started counting down from 10. "Okay, we're leaving. I've never liked this pub anyway." "In that case, you won't want to come back here, which is good, because you are all forbidden to do so. Now get out of my pub." When they left, Richie was showing the owner of the pub a finger, and one of the girls said, "It's all your fault, Richie. Where are we going now?" They reached the door, looked at the rain, and ran back in the direction of the college. "I'm sorry, sir, but can I top up your beer now?" "No, thanks. It's me who should be apologizing. I didn't want you to lose customers like that. I can do without such clients. They come here with an elderly woman. I think this brat is probably sleeping with her. In any case, they are all sitting on her neck, and when she leaves, they make sure that their drinks last until the end of the day. I feel sorry for her. She seems nice. Pretty, isn't she? Well, I'll say this. I wouldn't climb on it to get to you. if you get my point. So, what makes you feel sorry for her? Well, I don't have qualifications or anything like that, but you see life in this job. In my opinion, she is desperately trying to regain her youth. She seems nice, and she's married. So some poor guy will cry, drowning his longing in beer because of this. But she comes and sits with these guys, laughing and giggling like she's one of them. You probably heard them talking about her when she leaves. For them, it's just light meat. Everything will end in tears, and only she will suffer. It's not that I don't believe you, but why are you so sure? As I said, this is my job. You see everything, and I've seen it all before. If she is lucky, when this little shorty finishes with her, it will be a wake-up call, and she will try to mend relations with her husband. It is more likely that she will be so carried away by the feeling that she has become young again that she will look for another teenager. Believe me, it's like the same cigarettes that a teenager is simply obliged to smoke. Over time, she will go to bars and offer herself to any young man who seems at least a little interesting to her. It's really pathetic. You sound just like an experienced person. He leaned forward so that his mouth was close to my ear. Why do you think there is no wife here? When he pulled away, I saw sadness in his eyes. He looked like a decent guy, and it hurt him just to talk about it. He looked down at my glass. Now, sir, will you have another one? No, thanks. My lunch break is over. I'd better get back to work. Thanks for the conversation. The owner of the establishment certainly gave me something to think about. Will I be able to live with this situation? Is Barb on the hook? She's already lied to me, so maybe she is. How is your little friend these days? I hesitated for a moment before she answered. I don't know for sure, Frank. I haven't spoken to him in, probably 4 weeks. She was good. If I hadn't seen it all myself, I might have believed her. So you have 8 more weeks left, and then maybe we can get back to normal. Do we really have to wait, Frank? I'm sure we'll be fine. If you're really worried, you can always. Don't even think about it, Barb, I interrupted her. I'm not going to take precautions just because he didn't. I pushed her off my lap and stood up. I went to my room and lay down on the bed, thinking. I realized that she would never be honest with me. She needs me. She needs my stability, like a rebellious child needs stable parents. And then I realized that I couldn't be that stable. I have to go for a break. I spent the next 2 weeks preparing for the movie. I found a place to live, took a day off, and arranged to borrow a company van. I realized that for her secret meetings, Barb used the room that used to be ours. I decided to leave on Thursday. I took the van and parked it in the garage. The morning passed unnoticed, and I only managed to pack my things and make preparations. The coffee pot was on the gas stove, waiting. A little after 2 o'clock in the afternoon, Barbara's car drove up to the house. I watched them approach the front door. She said he was 20. He looked more like 16. I opened the front door. Barbara's mouth dropped open. I looked at little Richard. By the way he came to the door, I realized that he had shat himself. Barbara almost had to drag him through the door. What are you doing here, Frank? I could ask you the same thing. I thought it was over. At least she had the grace to blush at the same time. I'm sorry, Frank, I really tried, but I just couldn't resist. In the end, I had to talk to him, and then you guess. I'm sorry, Frank. I'm really sorry. But we can get through this. I know we can. Go back to work. We can talk about it tonight. I want to talk to him. Frank, do you really think that's wise? Well, that is. It will only confuse you. Barb, if a man is going to go to my house, smoke in my bedroom, sleep with my wife, the least he can do is sit down and talk to me. Does that mean what I think it means, Frank? You really don't mind? No one said anything about me not being against it, but you know that I don't want to see you unhappy, so I'll have to put up with it. I just wanted to meet him. And you really promise not to hurt him? I've already told you I won't touch him. She came up to him, took his hand, and pulled him towards me. Frank, this is Richard. Richard, this is Frank. Hi, come in. Sit down, have a cup of coffee. My name is Richard, sir, and I'm glad to meet you. He held out his hand for me to shake. Well, I'm sorry, but I can't shake your hand. I promised Barbara I wouldn't hurt you, and I always keep my promises. I saw him fumbling in his pocket. He pulled out a pack of cigarettes, took out one, and put it in his mouth. He took out a lighter and was about to light it. Don't be silly, Richard. These things will kill you, and if you light up in front of me, I may have to do the work for them. Now it's customary to ask before smoking in a man's house, and I don't want to end up smelling like an ashtray. I'm sorry, sir. I thought it was all right. I mean, Babs said you didn't mind. So Babs was wrong. What happens in this bedroom between you depends on her, but forcing me to passively breathe your poisonous smoke is not part of the deal. Is everything clear? Yes, sir, quite. With trembling hands, he put the cigarette away. As I understand it, you like cigarettes after intercourse. I don't understand why you smoke these things. Don't you know about the risk? Oh, yes, I know. Sir, but they say that if I quit for 10 years, the risk will decrease to 0. I believe that if I quit at 30, then by the time I'm your age, I'll be clean. That's assuming you live that long. Now, drink your coffee. And what will happen now? Will you be able to support her as well as she used to? You're planning on marrying her, aren't you? I thought he was going to pour coffee over me. So shocked was he by what I offered. Seeing his predicament, Barb intervened. You know perfectly well. We haven't even discussed this. I am your wife and always will be. I see. So he's just a little guy on the side, right, Barb? Stop it, Frank. Either get back to work or we're leaving. We'll talk about it tonight. I turned back to the young man sitting at the table. Well, I see Barb is starting to worry. Barb started fidgeting, shifting from one foot to the other and stretching her arms. It reminded me of the times when my daughter was waiting for first dates. Maybe she's afraid of losing you. Or maybe she's worried that she'll lose her place in your little group. For the first time, I saw a hint of recognition in his eyes, as if I had just confirmed that we had met before, but he couldn't remember where. Nevertheless, it looks like I'd better get back to work and leave you lovebirds alone. I must say, sir, you take it very well. I don't think I could have done the same. It's called love, son. I've always vowed to make Barb happy for the rest of her life, and that's exactly what I intend to do. Barb came over and put her arms around my neck. I really love you, you know. I didn't say anything. Barb started tugging on the young man's arm. He started to get up. Are we done yet, sir? Of course, I said. Go and have fun. He stopped when Barb dragged him away. Sir, can I have a cigarette? If Barb doesn't mind, then go ahead. The master bedroom was separated from the kitchen by a partition the thickness of one cinder block. I could hear them giggling while undressing each other. I walked around, collected the last things, took them to the van and put them with the others, then returned to the house. I poured coffee over the flame on the gas stove and left. An hour later, all my things were in the new apartment, and I went grocery shopping. When I unpacked everything and put it in its place, it was almost 6. I turned on the TV just in time for the news headlines. A house in Kings North was destroyed in a massive explosion on Points West tonight, the announcer said. This caught my attention. I watched the national news and waited for regional reports. The regional headlines were read, and then I saw this. A street very similar to the one where I lived before. As the camera moved down the street, I saw 2 houses very similar to the houses of my neighbors, and between them, a pile of rubble on the site of my small bungalow. Thank God there's insurance, I thought. A reporter stood in front of the camera and told her story. Today, at about 3 o'clock in the afternoon, the whole area of Kings North was shaken by a powerful explosion, from which windows were broken in houses throughout the district. The owners of the house, Mr. and Mrs. Bigelow, are believed to have been in bed at the time. Both were pronounced dead at the scene. A fire protection officer entered the frame, and the reporter jumped at the opportunity to interview. "So, Officer Reynolds, do we know what caused such a large explosion?" "We didn't find any signs of explosives. Everything indicates that it was an explosive accumulation of gas. I'm afraid people don't treat him with the respect he deserves. Leave the gas tap open for a while, and all you need is just a source of ignition, something as simple as turning on a light. Or lighting a cigarette," I thought. "Can't you tell how the tenants died?" "We'll have to wait for an autopsy to do that, but it looks like it's because of the explosion." The reporter finished her piece on camera, and I turned off the TV. I took out my laptop and turned it on. Barb's face was looking at me, and for the first time in many years, I dissolved into tears. I stroked her face on the screen. "I'm sorry, Barb, I couldn't let him do this to you. They say that an addict must reach the bottom. I couldn't watch this happen to you. I'm sorry, Barb. I love you, and I will always love you. Please forgive me." I sat there for a little over 2 hours. The computer has already gone into sleep mode. I turned it on again, launched the browser, and found the phone number of the newsroom of the TV channel. Then I dialed the number. It took some time to talk to minor people before getting through to those who could make a decision. "Hello," I said. "You've just done a report from what's left of my house." "Yes, the one on Exeter Road. My name is Frank Bigelow, and you just told everyone that I'm dead. But I must tell you that I'm very much alive." I paused. "Yes, and I don't smoke.